Good morning, rebels. I hope you are okay today. Today, I wanted to jump on actually just before Easter and talk about choices and us making choices in terms of either staying or leaving corporate life. Um, and I wanted to kind of relate it to where we are at the moment with the coronavirus pandemic and talk a little bit about the zones, if you like, that we might find ourselves in during this time, whether it's our fear zone, our learning zone, and our growth zone. And I wanted to share a visual today in that context with something that you may or may have not seen on social media. And I'm going to kind of pop that up as part of this video as well. But even when I think about choices and the fact that we all have them, it still sort of gives me an icky feeling. It sort of ties me up in knots. And I kind of want to shout back and say, yes, we have choices, but sort of yes, but comes into it. And I've been more acutely aware of that chimp voice over the last few weeks as we've gone through this sort of lockdown and this coronavirus pandemic to say, but yeah, do I have choices at the moment? Can I choose? Are choices available to me? You know, I can't, that use of I can't rather than I can't make them at the moment. And you know what? I'd feel guilty if I did. And I wonder if that sounds, really familiar to you as well. So I said I came across this great visual that I wanted to kind of share and talk about and then make that relationship to, so how are we showing up at the moment? What are our responses? What are we choosing? What are our options, and what are we choosing to do or not to, as the case may be, whether it's in our fear zone, in our learning zone, or in our growth zone. And with that, I also wanted to say, with my sort of therapist counselling hat on, is to say, it's okay to feel not okay sometimes, and really to lean into those emotions as we go through this pandemic. We are all human, and we should allow those emotions to come up rather than repress them. Something else I came across the other day, and I'm thinking about that fear zone, is that, fear has two meanings for us. It could mean forget everything and run, or it could mean face everything and rise. And the quote says, the choice is ours. What we do with that fear, whether we choose to sort of fight or flight, or we choose to face everything and rise. So that's what I was thinking about, in that kind of fear zone of where we might be with coronavirus at the moment. Again, I'm thinking as well in the context of the corporate jobs that you do as well, and I'll come on to that a little bit later. So if we consider ourselves in the learning zone as well, it's that feeling of starting to give up what you can't control. There's a lot going on for us at the moment which we simply can't control. It's external. There's things like, how long the pandemic's going to last, how other people are reacting to it, other people's motives, feeling that we can predict what's going to happen. Well, we simply can't. How the virus is going to spread, and how quickly the government's response, trying to control, stats and figures, laws and regulations. We simply can't do it. And with that control, we need to say to ourselves, well, what can we control? What can we influence? What can we learn from this? And how can we let go of that? And then the other area is really that kind of growth zone. And it's thinking about, how can I make my talents available to others and to those that need them? And can I use this as a time now to think about, ways for me to adapt to the change? It's that thing about what could be and what can be my new normal, once we're through this coronavirus pandemic. And actually with that, if it affords ourselves the possibility to actually take some time to think about, what do I do? What do I want to do with my career, after this? Is it giving me time to reflect, to say, what's my new normal going to be when I return to kind of corporate life? Am I going to return to corporate life? Will I return to corporate life, but will it be, slightly different? So it's the fact that we are, day to day making choices, every day, every hour, whether it's personal life, family, and particularly feels more sort of focused during this sort of pandemic side. But I wonder if we can think about, well, what could my life be different, from kind of corporate world? And I know that kind of leaves us feeling comfortable and icky. So as I said, I wonder if current circumstances gives you the opportunity to reflect on what your new normal could be after coronavirus. And will that corporate life return to normal? Will you get back on that sort of treadmill? And actually, what choices will you afford yourself if you like to do things differently? Now, there is that unknown, which we can be quite fearful of, and we can see that from a place of scarcity, but we can also choose to feel quite abundant with it, to say, what are the options? What are the opportunities? Rather than I can't afford to do that, what can I afford to do in the future? And effectively, we are in the driving seat to say, what are those choices that kind of what I want to make when, we're through this pandemic and life can return to some form of normality for us, and what that normal for us is going to be. And it's kind of drilling down and thinking, we can absolutely choose what our attitude is. We can choose our gratitude, we can choose our network, we can choose our work habits. Obviously, they've shifted for us at the moment with a lot of working from home. And if you've got children trying to manage the homeschooling, whilst I know we're at Easter holidays at the moment when you return to that. But actually, the only person that is saying that we can't do that in terms of that choice is ourselves. And that is the chimp on our shoulder that's keeping us stuck. So I've just got some journal questions for today. When you've got an opportunity, whether it's over a coffee or over a glass of wine at this evening over the Easter holidays, is to take some time of reflection, to look at the stuckness and the self-limiting beliefs. Which kind of get repressed and suppressed and dumbed down while we're sort of rushing about in the corporate lifestyle. So the questions are, which I'm going to read them to you so you can capture them, is what are the roles you will choose to play at work and at home when we are through this pandemic, or even what you're choosing now? Will you still choose to disallow the real you to shine brightly? And if you give yourself permission, if you like, to make these choices, and ones that are different to corporate life, that have been like that to date, what would they be? What would you do? What would you have? And what do you think you're denying yourself at the moment, or what's being blocked along the way? And actually, what are you choosing to say yes to right now, and that connects with you at the core? So what could that new normal be when you kind of return back to work? And actually, what are you going to claim and choose right now and from this day forward? So as I said, pick up those journaling questions, maybe over a coffee, maybe over a glass of wine, and really, if you like, take on those belief gremlins, and maybe see this as an opportunity, granted, if and when you have some downtime to reflect, to say, what will that new normal be for me when corporate life will return to some kind of normality. And if you like, create a set of affirmations to say, I am the woman that's choosing to, and be true to yourself, respect yourself, respect, if you like, what your future soul desires. Now that this sort of, if you let, change has been forced upon us to consider and reflect quite differently. So maybe choose to stand for something different and take action moving forward. So that's it for me today. Have a great Easter break. Stay safe, stay indoors apart from your exercise, and I'll be back next week. So today is thinking about what we can control, what we can't control, and the choices we can make, and the reflection time we can now have in thinking about what our new normal might be when we return to our corporate life, if we do choose to do that at all. Bye for now.